Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. My name is Goldie Gamari. This is the Goldie Show. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope you all had a fantastic Christmas. For those of you who are out or maybe are watching this afterwards and are out Boxing Day shopping, I hope you catch some good deals. Big welcome to everyone who's watching me on X and Rumble. And of course, a huge shout out to everyone who's watching me on YouTube, including the channel mods, the subscribers, and of course, the channel members who are supporting me. You guys are talking about this plaque thing. I had no idea that this was a thing. So, yeah, I didn't realize that YouTube would give out a plaque for people who got to 100,000 subscribers. So, yeah, I think that might happen sooner rather than later. Um, it's just honestly, like I'm quite surprised by how quickly my channel is growing. I mean, three months ago, less than 3 months ago, when I started live streaming, I was at maybe 1,600 followers. Like my YouTube account was not active whatsoever. And now that I'm looking at it, I feel like just a few days ago I got to 60, and now I think I'm at 92,000. So wow. I mean, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for all of your support. Oh, we've got people from Netherlands, from Iran. To those of you from Iran, درود بر شما. سپاسگزار از حمایتتون. جاوید شاه. People from India. Ooh, from France. Bonjour. You know, um, I made a pro tip video today. So for those of you who are familiar with me and my Iranian here with another pro tip video, I actually made one today, and I spoke about the UAE versus France, and I said, why is it that a Muslim country like the UAE can say Merry Christmas, and yet you have these woke Western leftist countries that are literally erasing their own identity and heritage, and they're saying Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas. um, okay, North Idaho, South Africa. Ooh, South Africa, welcome. There we go. All right, well, welcome everyone. So we are going to get started today. Many of you have asked me to watch Tulsi Gabbard's speech at TPUSA, the one where she warns about radical Islamism, something that I have been doing for quite a while. And the whole purpose of my channel is focusing on raising awareness um, about this. Um, oh, we have a super chat already. So W Sky X ABC, Islamism equals Islam. An Islamist is a Muslim who follows Islam. A peaceful Muslim is Muslim in name only, but sharing the same identity makes them dangerous because they often shield and cover for those who truly follow it. I mean, there are definitely concerns there. W Sky, I do appreciate where you are coming from. So first of all, the reason that I'm using the word Islamism is because I'm taking that directly from Tulsi Gabbard's YouTube page. So on her own YouTube page, let me just bring it up for you so you can see. Tulsi. So let me just share my screen with you here so you can see. So because sometimes people do ask me, like, why do I use certain words in my title? And the reason is very simple. The reason that I use certain words in my title is because I'm just taking from the video that was there. So for example, the video that we're going to watch today, Tulsi Gabbard's warning against Islamist ideology. So that's the wording that she has used on her own page, which is why I'm using that. Do I share some of your concerns? I absolutely do. And I actually made a video about this where when I was speaking about the three men who were recently convicted in the UK. Two of them were convicted for planning a terrorist attack, and the third one was convicted for failing to disclose the terrorist attack. And I basically said, so am I understanding correctly here that, we have what, like some people are planning terrorist attacks and then others who are not necessarily violent, but they won't stop it. Like I actually got into that. I don't know if you've seen that video here. I'm happy to share that with you as well. So the video that I'm referring to is this one here. So Jihad in the UK. It only has 34,000 views, but I do share similar concerns there because I'm like this is so strange. I mean, if someone came to me and said I'm planning on having a terrorist attack, or if someone came to me and said they're planning on doing a terrorist attack, I wouldn't be like, oh, okay, cool, right? I would immediately go report it to the police. And so the fact that we have cases where, for example, this one with the UK, where you have one of them who is planning a terrorist attack, and then he tells his younger brother about the terrorist attack, and the younger brother, as the court documents come out, the younger brother basically is supportive of the terrorist attack, but doesn't want to do the violence himself. So it's there are certainly concerns there, and it is something that we have to ask ourselves. I mean, how many large organizations or groups in Western countries are calling out the violence and the radicalism that we're seeing? They're not. So that is definitely a bit of a concern, and so something that definitely needs to be looked at and thought about. But having said that, let's go to Tulsi Gabbard's speech. I haven't watched this, so based on your requests, I'm going to be doing a blind watch, and I will give my thoughts and opinions on what Tulsi Gabbard is saying. And then I actually do have a follow-up video that I want to play for you. The follow-up video is from His Royal Highness Reza Pahlavi, Iran's king in exile. We call him the Shah. I want to share his speech with you that he made last year at the NatCon convention, so the National Conservative Convention, where he was warning Americans about the threat of radical Islam and communism as well. So let's begin with Tulsi Gabbard here.
Before you today, we're not going anywhere. We're here to fight for you and to fight for the red, white, and blue that's behind you. We can't do this alone. It will take all of us who love our country and who deeply cherish our freedoms to stand united in this fight. Every single day that we wake up with breath in our bodies, we are blessed with the opportunity to take advantage and make the very most of that day. Today is the day for us to stand up for all that we believe in, stand up for each other, stand up for our country, stand up for our freedom, and the future that truly realizes the vision that our founders had for this great country.
Please welcome Director Tulsi Gabbard.
Merry Christmas. I couldn't hear you in the back. Merry Christmas. I'm a little bit emotional walking out here because this is the first time we are gathered here for AmFest without Charlie Kirk. But I feel in all of your voices and your presence here, his love. And that's a beautiful thing. You know, at all the different TPUSA events that I have been through and to over the years, you know, Charlie was often the one who would, you know, greet me at the door. We would go and kind of huddle in a corner backstage and start talking about, oh, hey, what's going on? What are you working on? What are you working on?
Oh, we have a comment from Jeffrey. Hoping for a future where Israel and a free Iran can again be friends as they once were and should be based on history and values. Thank you so much for that thought, Jeffrey. So it's very interesting because Iranian, like the history of Iranians and Jews goes back thousands of years to the time of Cyrus the Great. And you're absolutely right. What a lot of people don't know is that prior to 1979, before the terrorist Islamic regime occupied the country of Iran, Iran was actually a big ally of Israel, and Iran was actually one of the first countries to recognize the state of Israel. And it was only when the Islamic dictatorship took over, and then that, you know, Islamic jihadi ideology and Sharia law basically took over the country, that the enmity with Israel began. But what a lot of people don't realize is that the enmity was never between Iran and Israel. It's always been between the Islamic dictatorship and Israel. So the Islamic dictatorship is not only the enemy of Israel, it's also the enemy of the Iranian people. And, you know, they've been murdering us in the name of Allah and Islam and Muhammad for the last 47 years. Even just a few days ago, they executed another innocent Iranian claiming that, you know, he's Mossad, which is, of course, completely bogus. But what I can tell you, and I'm happy to make a video about this. Let me make a note here. Follow-up video about. So what I'll do, I'll make a follow-up video because I know there's a lot of interest in this. So the current king of Iran in exile, His Royal Highness Reza Pahlavi, we're actually going to hear from him. I'm going to play a speech from him in the second part of today's live stream. He actually recently sent a delegation to Israel. So what I can say is that the official Iranian opposition, who has, you know, the support of the vast majority of the Iranian people, of course, like over 80% support, they've already put out in their platform, you know, in the 100-day plan, that one of the first things that the transitional government will do once the Islamic dictatorship is overthrown is that they will once again normalize diplomatic relations with both Israel and the United States, similar to how it was prior to 1979, when, you know, Iran was a normal country and not occupied by a bunch of crazy Islamic jihadis. So that is in the 100-day plan. And just recently, he had a delegation that visited Israel. We do know that the king of Iran has, you know, close ties with you know, Israeli politicians, and a lot of collaboration there. And in fact, one of the reasons that a delegation on behalf of the king of Iran went to Israel was to work on resolving the current water crisis in Iran as well, because right now there is a water crisis due to mismanagement by the Islamic dictatorship. So that is, of course, something that has been worked on as well. But I will make a note here to make a short video where I explain this in more detail. But thank you so much for the comments. Thank you so much for the kind words. Really, really do appreciate that. And I'm Yisrael Chai.
Working on, and how do we tackle the biggest challenges that we face in this country, with Charlie always incredibly focused and full of energy, and not just looking around, okay, what's the next thing, but here's the 5, 10, 15, and 20-year plan that we really have to keep at the forefront of all that we're doing. And so Well, I didn't get to have that conversation with Charlie here. I had a conversation with Erica backstage, and I got to tell you, I continue to be in awe of this woman. I cannot imagine what she's been through, what she is going through. I'm in awe of and grateful for her kindness and her strength and how she has opened up her heart during the toughest of times to the world, and how she continues to exhibit the kind of courage and strength that you and I know can only come from God. We hear a lot of talk about unity. It's a word that is frequently used. We must stand united. We must come together and unify. But too often, we don't actually think about what that means. To say we have to unite just for the sake of unity, what does it mean? We can unite around the wrong things. We can unite around a negative cause that results in a negative impact. And so when we talk about standing united as Americans, we have to understand what that really means. What is it that binds us together? What are the fundamental principles that we must stand together on, whether we are Democrats or Republicans or people of different religions, people of different backgrounds or different views on certain policies? Fundamentally, the thing that we must unite on is our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution, and that every one of us as Americans must remain committed and dedicated to defending. That is our foundation. When we talk about America, we can look at borders, we can look at land, we can look at territories, but when we truly look at what does it mean to be an American, and the responsibility that every single one of us as Americans carries with us, it is centered on our foundational principles, on that vision that our founders had for us, knowing way back then how challenging it would be and how there would be frequent and consistent attacks on our freedom, and it would be up to us to defend them. And that's exactly where we are today. Charlie understood these threats. He saw them and focused completely on this defense of freedom, not just in words, but in action. He lived that truth that so many of us who either have worn the uniform or wear the uniform live by. I may disagree with what you say, but I will defend it to the death your right to say it. That's real. And Charlie lived and died by that principle, that no matter how offensive or horrible or disgusting someone's speech is, no matter how much we disagree with it, it's up to us to stand up and protect and defend their right to say it. And to stand as Charlie.
Oh, sorry, just to interrupt. True Forge, did JD Vance also speak about Islamism? I'll see if I can find his clip and play his message as well. Was that like a big focus or was it like a small focus? Let me know and I'll see if I can find what JD Vance said as well.
He did, and defeat that weak or dark speech, that ideology, with a superior ideology that's focused on freedom. You know, thinking about the threats to our freedom, in these gatherings across the country that TPUSA hosts, we often talk about the attacks on freedom that came from the Biden administration, how they sought to censor us in different ways, how they sought to spread disinformation to try to limit or control or curate what we saw and what we heard, how they lifted up certain voices and hushed others, reaching into their propaganda arms and compelling social media companies to do their dirty work for them. But there is a threat to our freedom that is not often talked about enough. And it is the greatest near and long-term threat to both our freedom and our security, and that is the threat of Islamist ideology.
On that note, just wanted to give a shout out to Jeffrey. Welcome to Goldie's Gang. Thank you for signing up for a membership. I hope you enjoy the live stream, and thank you for supporting the channel. Really appreciate that. Welcome. Right. Let's go back a bit here because what she said was important, and I want to repeat. I want everyone to pay attention to that part because she's not wrong.
About the attacks on freedom that came from the Biden administration, how they sought to censor us in different ways, how they sought to spread disinformation to try to limit or control or curate what we saw and what we heard, how they lifted up certain voices and hushed others, reaching into their propaganda arms and compelling social media companies to do their dirty work for them. But there is a threat to our freedom that is not often talked about enough. And it is the greatest near and long-term threat to both our freedom and our security, and that is the threat of Islamist ideology.
I agree 100%. And there's a reason why that I've been speaking out quite a bit about this. I'm interested to see how far she will get into where the threat is coming from, because I can tell you one of the big reasons why you're seeing this threat in the United States and other Western countries is because of the Islamic Republic occupying Iran. They are the largest state sponsor of terrorism around the world. And a lot of these Islamic terrorists that you're seeing in Western countries, and they're not necessarily Iranian, by the way. The vast majority of them are not actually Iranian. That's because the Islamic dictatorship itself isn't even Iranian. Half of them are like from other parts of the world. And that's why we Iranians, we call it an occupation. We call it occupied Iran. But a lot of the terrorism that you're seeing in Western countries, a lot of the radicalism, a lot of the fundamentalism, a lot of these like Islamic centers that are funded, and you don't know where the money is coming from, that's all coming from the Islamic Republic occupying Iran. And so when I play the speech by His Royal Highness, the King of Iran, he's going to speak about that a little bit. But here, let me give you one example of what I'm talking about. So this was last year, an Islamic center in Hamburg was shut down. So here we go. So this is what I mean. This is how like they come in under the guise of religion or culture, and then they basically just like fund terrorism and radicalism. Here. Let me remove this video and I'll bring this one up. So, okay. So this is from 2024. So this is literally last summer. Germany shuts down Islamic Center Hamburg. Oh, I have a super chat here. All right, let me go to this. Actually, let me finish reading this article and then I'll respond to the super chat. So, Germany shuts down Islamic Center Hamburg. This is from 2024. The Islamic Center Hamburg was under investigation for several months over its alleged support for Lebanon's Hezbollah group, which is backed by Iran. Of course, by Iran, they mean the Islamic Republic occupying Iran. Hezbollah is classified as a terrorist group by Germany. So, Hamburg's Blue Mosque has connections to the Iranian regime. It should be the Islamic Republic occupying Iran, but there you go. So, German Interior Minister Nancy Faeser said on Wednesday that the Islamic Center Hamburg would be banned for propagating extremism and that its famous Blue Mosque was being searched by police. It is very important for me to make a clear distinction here. We are not acting against a religion. Fazer said, but just against a group accused of undermining the German state as well as women's rights. The Imam Ali Mosque, known locally as the Blue Mosque, is one of Germany's oldest mosques and is operated by the IZH. So, guys, like these mosques and Islamic centers have been operating in Western countries for a very, very long time, right? And they call themselves, Islamic centers, cultural centers, schools, mosques, whatever. Why? Because they are taking advantage of the freedom of religion and freedom of association that is available in Western countries to shield themselves from scrutiny, right? Because what happens is when someone tries to point out that, there's something off about this mosque, maybe they shouldn't be honoring Islamic terrorists. Maybe they shouldn't be promoting extreme fundamentalist ideology. When people call it out, these Islamic centers or, groups or charities or whatever will immediately cry Islamophobia, right? However, as you can see, it's this is a very, very real problem. And there are hundreds of them all across the West in various Western countries. I mean, there's so many of them in Canada, and no one's doing anything about it. Like these mosques or Islamic cultural centers are literally holding vigils for dead terrorists, right? They're holding vigils for Hezbollah, for Hamas, for the Islamic Republic itself, right? And they're hiding behind, religion in order to promote their terrorist ideology. So when Tulsi Gabbard says that the biggest threat to America is radical Islam or Islamism, right? My reaction is I'm glad that someone is finally calling it out, right? Because this has been going on for a very long time. It's not like this isn't something that happened yesterday. I mean, as you can tell from this article, in Germany, the Imam Ali Mosque is one of Germany's oldest mosques, right? Oldest mosques. So like these people have been trying to infiltrate Western countries for decades. And the reason that you're seeing all of this extremism and extremist behavior in Western countries is because this is the result of decades of infiltration, subversion, radicalization. So, this is what I mean when I talk about how a lot of these terrorist organizations have built mosques and Islamic centers in Western countries in order to promote their radical jihadi agenda in order to destabilize Western countries and eventually take over. I'm not exaggerating. This is just one example in Germany, and there's so many more of this, right? So there you go. Just one example of how Islamism is a huge threat, and yet these people are using religion and Islamophobia to try and shield themselves from legitimate criticism, especially from us Iranians, because we have dealt with the Islamic Republic. We know how they operate, we know what they do, we know what their intentions are. Like, we can sniff out one of these, Islamic centers like a mile away. And so there's a whole bunch of them in Canada too. So there you go. There's my little input on my feedback. So when Tulsi Gabbard says it's a threat, she's not exaggerating. It legitimately is a threat. Oh, sorry, I wanted to go to the super chat before I forget. So Nicole says, any advice on how I can learn about Islam and learn from the perspective of Muslims so I can understand their ideology? Um, I mean, I don't know. Um, like my focus is calling out Islamic terrorism and, radicalism and extremism, and, focusing on jihad, and how they're, how the terrorists are infiltrating Western society. So, I mean, I I actually don't really have any advice for you, um, on where to begin. Maybe people in the chat might have some suggestions for you. So for those of you in the live chat, if you have any suggestions for Nicole on where she could learn more about this, let her know. Let her know that, because I don't really focus on religion, right? Like, I'm not here to talk about religion or theology or anything like that. Like, I'm here to just talk about terrorism and jihad and how that's destabilizing the West. That's the focus of this particular channel.
It is propagated by people who not only do not believe in freedom, their fundamental ideology is antithetical to the foundation that we find in our Constitution and Bill of Rights, which is that our Creator endowed upon us inalienable rights: the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, Charlie focused on this quite a bit. He talked about it in ways that very few others did because he understood this direct threat to freedom. When we look back to the attack on 9/11 that happened 24 years ago now, it changed so many of our lives, where thousands of Americans were killed by Islamist jihadis who attacked us on that day. And we were confronted with the reality of the lengths that they will go to try to attack the foundations of who we are as a country. It was a day that changed my life, probably like some of you in the room. It's what motivated me to enlist in the Army, to go out and to fight and to defend and to defend our freedom and defeat those who are attacking us. But when we talk about this Islamist ideology, yes, it is the...
Oh, so we have a comment from Dorman. Those madrasas need to be closed or monitored. I 100% agree. They need to be monitored. In fact, interesting to note that in many Muslim countries, like the UAE or Saudi Arabia, their governments actually monitor the mosques and monitor the sermons and monitor the schools to make sure that the clerics or whoever, whatever they're preaching, is not like radicalization, right? So it's very interesting that the Muslim majority countries recognize and understand that there is a potential threat of radicalism, especially since they're dealing with the Muslim Brotherhood. So they are very vigilant in keeping the Muslim Brotherhood out of their countries. They've banned the Muslim Brotherhood. They've listed it as a terrorist entity. And yet in Western countries, you're seeing groups and people who are affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood freely preaching their narrative, like, and they're saying things that would never be allowed in, for example, Saudi Arabia or the UAE. So so these people affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood and the Islamic Republic and all these like radical terrorist groups, they are again taking advantage of the ignorance of people in the West who don't understand the difference, and they're just using the freedom of religion given to them in Western countries to promote their ideology, which is very dangerous.
Ideology that fuels terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
Okay, let me just go back a little bit because I interrupted there.
24 years ago now, it changed so many of our lives, where thousands of Americans were killed by Islamist jihadis who attacked us on that day. And we were confronted with the reality of the lengths that they will go to try to attack the foundations of who we are as a country. It was a day that changed my life, probably like some of you in the room. It's what motivated me to enlist in the Army to go out and to fight and to defend and to defend our freedom and defeat those who are attacking us. But when we talk about this Islamist ideology, yes, it is the ideology that fuels terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS and Al-Shabaab and Hamas and Boko Haram and others. And they must be defeated militarily. As they continue to actively plot and try to attack us. They are a threat to our security and our safety. But this Islamist ideology is a direct threat to our freedom because at its core, it is a political ideology that seeks to create a global caliphate that governs us here in America, threatening Western civilization, governance by Sharia law, governance by what they are calling their Islamic principles. And
have I not been saying that for like ever? Literally every single time I'm speaking about it, I'm like, these people want to implement Sharia law because they want to establish this global caliphate. So I'm so glad that Tulsi Gabbard is finally is just saying it, right? Because this is what we have been trying to warn people about for a very, very long time. Good. I'm glad. I'm glad that she's calling it out for what it is. Like, she's absolutely right. I mean, Sharia law is not something that's compatible with Western civilization. Sharia law, like, people who want to implement Sharia law, they want to do it because they think that, that is above everything. And Sharia law is above the Constitution, is above the concept of the nation state. And yeah, they literally want to establish a global caliphate, like an Islamic ummah. And that's why a lot of them are immigrating to Western countries, right? Okay, let me go back here so we can listen to that part again, because that's so important.
And try to attack us. They are a threat to our security and our safety. But this Islamist ideology is a direct threat to our freedom because at its core, it is a political ideology that seeks to create a global caliphate that governs us here in America, threatening Western civilization, governance by Sharia law, governance by what they are calling their Islamic principles. And if you fail to comply, if you fail to adhere to this ideology, if you dare to exercise your God-given right to free speech, censorship is not what we face. They will use violence or any means they deem as necessary to silence us. If we don't take action to identify this threat, to define it, to call it out for what it is, and take action to defeat it, then we will find ourselves in a place where many European countries and countries like Australia have found themselves. Countries where you can get arrested for praying silently on the street corner, as has happened in the UK. Countries where you can be arrested for putting up a social media post that someone finds offensive somewhere. The threats from this Islamist ideology come in many forms. As we approach Christmas right now in Germany, they are canceling Christmas markets because of this threat. In places like Dearborn, Michigan, and Minneapolis, Minnesota, Islamist clerics are openly pushing this Islamist ideology, trying to recruit and radicalize young people.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, Dearborn, Michigan, is a big red flag. What's happening there? Geez, it's scary. It's scary. Okay, we have a super chat. Oh man, I'm not going to repeat that because I mean, I'd like to, I like to keep things a bit more professional and polite, but I do appreciate your frustration, and I do agree that anyone who wants Sharia law is stuck in a 7th century mentality and belongs in the 7th century. Like, if someone supports Sharia law, um, they don't belong in Western countries. I think they should all be deported. They can go to, like, I don't know, Afghanistan or Pakistan or, wherever, right? If they want Sharia law, they can go to a country that's governed by Sharia law. I don't think Sharia law has any place in modern Western civilization. And I have made a video explaining. I made a short video about it. I'm happy to make a longer one as well. Alex Levy, Ruz Becher, Chetori. Oh, that's impressive. So for those who don't know, Ruz Becher means good day. Chetori means how are you? I'm fine. Do you think someone like Tulsi can ever take a national stage in Canada in the near future? Belated Shabe Yalda Mubarak. Thank you so much. I don't think someone like Tulsi Gabbard would be able to take the stage in Canada without a lot of pushback from the pro-Palestine groups, or the big Muslim groups like the National Council of Canadian Muslims, or Muslim Advisory Committee, or I don't know, whatever. The same groups that basically accused me of Islamophobia for raising awareness about radicalism and terrorism and anti-Semitism. So everything that Tulsi Gabbard is saying right now, this is basically what I was saying, and I was accused of Islamophobia for this. So I mean, I can't see Tulsi Gabbard wanting to come to Canada. Um, Unfortunately, Canada is overtaken with woke leftist, globalist liberals right now, and we have a prime minister who said that Muslim values are Canadian values. So that's sort of where we are in Canada right now. And people like me who do speak out about it are accused of Islamophobia. So, situation in Canada is definitely far worse than what it is in the UK. I can't see any Canadian politician in the near future being so direct and clear about what's going on the way that Tulsi Gabbard is. And Canada is also, we all know, like, as Iranians, both in occupied Iran and outside of Iran, we all know that Canada has become a safe haven for the Islamic Republic. Many of them live here. There's a lot of money laundering going on as well. So I mean, yeah, Canada's in a much worse state. But what's happening in America is it's giving me some hope. It lets me know that if things get really bad in Canada, at least I have a place that I can escape to. I'll have to come to United States and claim refugee status or something. So yeah. Simple solution, just ban it and outlaw it. Ban Sharia law and outlaw it. Listen, I agree, but what the Islamists have been doing is they're basically claiming that Sharia law is freedom of religion. So again, like, they're using the freedom and tolerance provided in Western countries to push and promote their own agenda and ideology, right? They're claiming that, oh, this is our religious freedom to have Sharia law, but they're banking on the ignorance of people in Western countries. They're banking on the ignorance of people in Western countries to not understand what Sharia law actually is. Sharia law is not something that can coexist. Sharia law is something that, in their eyes, supersedes and is meant to just completely dominate and take over. It's like Tulsi Gabbard was saying, it's not just a religious thing. It's a whole. It's a political. It's political. It's political as well. So let me go back so that we can listen to what she was saying again, because everything that she says, where she describes, the threat, is 100% correct. And I'm glad that she's calling it out for what it is. Here, let me go back a bit.
They will use violence or any means they deem as necessary to silence us. If we don't take action to identify this threat, to define it, to call it out for what it is, and take action to defeat it, then we will find ourselves in a place where many European countries and countries like Australia have found themselves. Countries where you can get arrested for praying silently on the street corner, as has happened in the UK. Countries where you can be arrested for putting up a social media post that someone finds offensive somewhere. The threats from this Islamist ideology come in many forms. As we approach Christmas right now in Germany, they are canceling Christmas markets because of this threat. In places like Dearborn, Michigan, and Minneapolis, Minnesota, Islamist clerics are openly pushing this Islamist ideology, trying to recruit and radicalize young people. Earlier this year, there was a conference that was held representing organizations like the Council on American Islamic Relations, also known as CARE, which issued a call to action to use American legal and political systems to implement Sharia law. This is already underway in places. This is already underway in places like Houston. This is not something that may possibly happen. It is already happening here within our borders. Paterson, New Jersey is proud to call themselves the first Muslim city. They are working to implement in their own governments these Islamic principles that are forced on people through the use of laws or violence. The bottom line is this: when we talk about the threat of Islamism, this political ideology, there is no such thing as individual freedom or liberty. As Charlie said over and over again, it is fundamentally incompatible with our nation's foundation of freedom.
100%. 100%. I 100% agree with that. It's fundamentally incompatible with Western civilization, Western culture, Western ideology.
And at its core, when we understand that our freedom comes from God and no one else, we understand the seriousness of this Islamist ideology threat, because it means they deny that God is the one who has bestowed this right to freedom in every one of us. So what do? We as Americans have to stand proudly for freedom and understand that a free society cannot survive if it refuses to defend itself. You don't preserve freedom of speech by canceling it. We preserve free speech by exercising it, by using more of it, encouraging more speech. We protect our Constitution by ensuring loyalty to the Constitution. We protect our democratic republic by ensuring that we, the people, elect leaders who not only believe in American values, but actually live them. Leaders who are committed to ensuring that we have a government of, by, and for the people, and leaders who most importantly put freedom and the interests and well-being of the American people first in every single decision that they make.
So Rogue Gunfighter says it's time to show no quarter or respite. I agree. I mean, when it comes to these Islamists and these radical jihadis, if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile, because they come from a mindset where compromise is viewed as weakness, right? So you have to take a very, very strong approach, and you can't like let them in. You have to nip it in the bud. Otherwise, what's going to happen is your country, God forbid, will end up like Iran, like occupied Iran. Again, guys, what happened to my birth country of Iran in 1979 when the Islamic coup d'etat happened, that's not something that happened overnight, guys. It's not like people just woke up one day and had a revolution. That was something that was almost 40 years in the making. So the Islamists started destabilizing in 1941, and then eventually the communists joined forces with them in the 1950s. And I'll get to that, but the 1979 Islamic Revolution didn't happen overnight. It was a product of generational influence and indoctrination, which is kind of what you're seeing in the United States right now. I mean, there's a reason that you have, young Americans who are literally burning the flag of America, and they're calling Hamas or these Islamic terrorists freedom fighters, right? Like this didn't happen by accident. This is the product of years of indoctrination in universities, in the education system, right? It's a very, very serious threat here, guys. I mean, for Iranians like me and others, and many in the chat and many in the live stream who are watching, what we're seeing happening in Western society is very, very similar to what was happening in Iran before the Islamic dictatorship took over. And as soon as we're done this speech by Tulsi Gabbard, I'm going to play for you the speech of His Royal Highness King Reza Pahlavi. He's the current king of Iran in exile. He actually spoke about the threat of radical Islam and communism at the National Conservative Convention last year. So pay attention to this speech, and then as soon as this is done, I'm going to go to that one so that you guys can see that we Iranians, we've been trying to warn you about this for a very, very long time. And I think his speech from last year is very pertinent given what's happening in the United States right now. So thank you for that comment, Rogue Gunfighter. William sent a super sticker. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Really appreciate that. Paul Patka, thank you for being so brave. It's a shame so many people are blind to the simple truth. I agree. First of all, thank you for the comments. Thank you for the support. I agree. But that's why I'm having this live stream. That's why I make my videos. And all I can say is that all of your support is really giving me the energy and motivation to continue what I'm doing. I'm just grateful to all of you for supporting my channel, supporting my videos, helping me get the message out there. And I'm really enjoying interacting with all of you on my live stream here. So yeah, this is a very interesting episode of the Goldie Show. I'm really, really enjoying all of this. USMC 97-09, preaching to the choir. Okay. Not sure what that is. All right. Okay, let's continue, guys. Thank you for all the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're enjoying the live stream.
One of the things that Charlie and I talked most often about was peace. And this was the topic of the last in-person conversation that I had with Charlie. It's the topic of peace. He was a consistent and powerful advocate for peace because he understood that in order for us to be truly free and prosperous, we must be at peace. He understood the importance of President Eisenhower's farewell address when he warned that, quote, in the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or our democratic process. That warning rings as true today as it did back then when he said it. as a retired general who led during wartime and as a president and commander-in-chief of the United States. He understood then, as we do now, that too often we, the American people, are told we must choose between liberty or security. And which side often wins out in that proposition? Liberty loses. And the warmongers claim that they are doing what they are doing for the sake of our security. It's a lie. Eisenhower issued this warning because he understood the power of the influence of the military-industrial complex and how those who seek to keep us in a persistent state of war deny the heavy cost that it takes in human lives, in taxpayer dollars, and in the erosion of our liberties. Wars that have nothing to do with ensuring our security or our liberty. Now, this is something that we're dealing with right now in real time. As you know, President Trump has been persistently and relentlessly pursuing a peace deal to finally end the war between Russia and Ukraine. He talks frequently about the need to end the killing and the bloodshed, and his teams are negotiating now as we gather here. But what I've seen over these months is that every time they make progress and they move closer and closer to that hope for peace, the warmongers in the deep state step up and try to do everything they can to stop them. Predictably, they use the same old tactics that they've always used. The deep state within the intelligence community weaponizes intelligence to try to undermine progress. They leak it to their friends in the mainstream propaganda media to try to spread this and push a false narrative. They foment fear and hysteria as a way to justify the continuing of the war and their efforts to undermine President Trump's efforts towards peace, and do so specifically in this case in order to try to pull the U.S. military into a direct conflict with Russia, which is ultimately what the EU and NATO want. We cannot allow this to happen. We have to see clearly what's happening before our very eyes and stand united in this cause of peace. I've served in the Army now for almost 22 years. I'm grateful to serve. Thank you. I've deployed twice to the Middle East and once to East Africa as part of a joint special operations task force to go after Al-Qaeda in Somalia. But during my first deployment to Iraq in 2005, I served in a medical unit in a base about 40 miles north of Baghdad. And shortly after arriving there, I was walking around our camp, trying to familiarize myself with the place, when I was stopped in my tracks by a sign that someone had put up at the gate where most of our security patrols went in and out of every single day. And this is inside the camp. Just before they left every day, they saw in big block letters the words, "Is today the day? Is today the day?" This ever-present reminder that any day could be our last. This was true. In the height of the war in Iraq, in the middle of a war zone, for some of my friends, for too many of my friends, their time came. They made that ultimate sacrifice. And it was hard. Hard to lose those who were a part of our military family, those who I knew were willing to lay their lives down. One of my friends was named Staff Sergeant Tiai. He was just a few days away from being able to go home to American Samoa and to see his wife and his kids. They were making plans for what they would do during his 2 weeks of R&R. And he was killed when a roadside bomb exploded underneath his vehicle as they were approaching their return to base. I really struggled with his death. We weren't very close, but he was part of our family. And I prayed a lot. I asked God for clarity and for strength and for understanding and peace, and taking shelter in God's love and having faith in him was where I found that peace. Is today the day? Is today the day is a reminder that every one of us has the opportunity to reflect on as we pray and think about how we can make the most of every single day that we are blessed with life and breath in these bodies. We know Charlie did that. I remember being at a rally with him towards the end of President Trump's campaign. He was running the whole event, and as the speakers were going through, he was sitting there just backstage with his laptop working on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing, working tirelessly. The reality of this reflection is today the day is just as important for us here as we gather and as we leave here and go about our daily lives as it was for those of us serving in a war zone. None of us knows how much time we have. But the thing that we can choose to do is to dedicate our every day to love and serve God with all that we have and in all that we do. This is the secret to living a truly successful life and being truly happy in that life. So as we approach Christmas now, we have the opportunity to celebrate Jesus Christ and what he told all of us to do. And he said it best in response to the question, what is your greatest commandment? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, your entire being. And the second is like unto it. Love your neighbor as yourself. If we follow these commandments and keep them at the forefront of the choices that we make every day, how we treat each other, how we speak to others, whether they are friends or those who are coming at us and hurling insults at us, doesn't mean we roll over or we allow them to go unanswered. We understand the responsibility and the opportunity that we have is to respond with love, which is the most powerful force that exists. And that love is inspired by God's unconditional love for every single one of us. Is today the day? Yes, today is the day when we choose to stand together, united, with hope in our hearts that comes from the light of God's love shining through our lives and in our work. I have hope today, inspired by God's love, that we will share that love with others, that we will treat each other with respect, with aloha, and that we will stand strong and unshakable in our resolve to defend our God-given rights and freedoms. Merry Christmas. Thank you so much. May God bless you all. May God bless America.
That was a very, very good speech. I'm very glad that Tulsi Gabbard said that. I'm going to play the speech by His Royal Highness King Reza Pahlavi next. This is a speech that he gave last year at the National Conservative Convention. Before I do that, I do see we have a few super chats, so I'm just going to go through them. So the first one is from Astronomics. All Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, atheists, and others should unite collectively. Humanity's existence is at stake. There are also many Muslims who are speaking out against the threat of terrorism and radical Islam. And we can't forget that either. I just want to remind you guys of what the United Arab Emirates said. So I think this is important. Like, we need to keep this in mind, that there are also many Muslims who are victims of Islamic terrorism and victims of Islamic extremism. So here, let me show you, for example, what I am talking about here, because this is why I always make a distinction, right? And I think this is why it's important to make a distinction. But here we go. Let me just play for you. Oh wait, I gotta share my screen. Here we go. So this is Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed. Okay, so this is him. And here he is warning Western politicians about the threat of radicalism and extremism back in 2017. So even as early as 2017, you had Muslim politicians from the United Arab Emirates warning Western non-Muslim politicians about the threat of radicalism. And and I'll play the video, but he's basically saying that there will come a day. Well, you know what? Let me just play it for you, and then just pay attention to what he's saying, because he's literally warning non-Muslim woke, leftist politicians about the threat of radicalism almost 10 years ago.
And let me say this in English so you can understand what I'm saying.
I have translation.
No, I know you have translation, but I just want to make sure you get it right. There will come a day that we will see far more radical extremists and terrorists coming out of Europe because of lack of decision-making, trying to be politically correct, or assuming that they know the Middle East and they know Islam and they know the others far better than we do. And I'm sorry, but that's pure ignorance.
Okay. So again, back in 2017, you literally had Muslim politicians from the United Arab Emirates, which is a Muslim country, warning Western politicians and saying there will come a day when all of the radicals and the extremists are going to be coming out of your countries because you guys don't understand the difference and you guys are too worried about political correctness to nip it in the bud. And 8 years later, that's exactly what we're seeing. And I actually made a pro tip video about that today. For those of you who for those of you who got to know me from my Iranian here with another pro tip, or those video series. So I made one today, and I basically said, how is it that a Muslim country like the UAE wishes Christians a Merry Christmas, but then you have a Christian country like France who says Happy Holidays, right? So Muslim countries say Merry Christmas, but Christian countries like France say Happy Holidays because they're afraid of offending people. So this kind of goes to what he was talking about 8 years ago. So that's just why I personally like to make a distinction, and I do know of many Muslims who are fighting back and speaking out against radicalism. So I do think it's important to make that distinction. But again, I respect everyone's opinions and thoughts, and I do appreciate you sharing your thoughts with everyone. Dorman, last month we had a free session on combating Islamophobia in our hospital where I work, but I didn't attend. It's interesting. These sessions are free, but obviously the funding is coming from somewhere, right? And one thing that I've noticed is a lot of these sessions that are meant to combat Islamophobia are actually sort of a way to push their own um, narrative, I guess, in like a sneaky backdoor way. I've actually had no, I can't speak about this, but okay. So all I'm going to say is that in Canada, these things have been happening in certain places, and people who have been involved in, who have had to attend these, like Islamophobia free training sessions or whatever, they came out of it and realized that those Islamophobia training sessions were actually incredibly anti-Semitic. And I've had people reach out to me on the back end and explain that. So yeah, but I would say nothing is free. So if there's like a free thing on Islamophobia, follow the money and see who's behind it, and then ask yourselves, how come there aren't any free sessions about any other religion, right? Why is there just this constant need to like push and normalize, right? That's just my question on that. And then finally, not finally, but the best for last so far, the major, here we go. If it brightens your day, I work with a group of strategic analysts under various contracts. Overall, the chances of a Pahlavi restoration is now running at about 60 to 70% for a number of reasons. Oh, I love that. That actually does brighten my day. That actually does make me feel amazing, actually. I mean, we all know it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. So it's nice to know that the outlook is looking much more positive these days. And on that note, for those of you who are not familiar with Pahlavi, we're now going to go to the speech, the one that I mentioned to you. So this is a speech from the Shah of Iran in exile, the King of Iran, His Royal Highness Reza Pahlavi II. And here is his speech last year at National Conservatism. And I got, just listen. And I want you to, now that we've heard Tulsi Gabbard and what she has said about the threat of radical Islam and how it is not compatible with the West, and how radical Islam is trying to destabilize American society. Pay attention to what the Shah of Iran has to say now.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Western civilization, and the United States in particular, is at risk. I say this because this is exactly what happened to my country 45 years ago. Iran, you might say, was the testing grounds for what my late father called the unholy alliance of the red and the black, radical Marxism and radical Islamism. These two ideologies converged not to create, but to destroy. Indeed, to destroy the very notion of Iran. As the Ayatollah Khomeini himself, upon his return to Iran, said, "Patriots are of no use to us. We need Muslims. Islam is opposed to nationalism, because nationalism means we want a nation, nationhood, and not Islam."
Just a quick comment here. I'm seeing all of your super chats. Okay, let me just respond to the super chats really quickly, and then I'll save all the remaining super chats for after the king has spoken, because I really want everyone to listen to what he's saying. But don't worry, I will get to all of your super chats after he's done. I promise. It's only, he only speaks for about like 20-25 minutes or so, so it's not super long. Seymour, hello. Do you know who Rodman Purma? No, I don't know who that is. Sorry. Ryan, the loss of their empires causes France, UK, Spain, Portugal, and Netherlands equated to a loss of economic production. They opened up the door to their former colonies, many Muslim for labor. Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, Ryan, they're also paying the price for enabling the Islamic Republic to overthrow the Shah, right? Because the Islamic dictatorship would not have been successful without the backing of France, UK, United States as well, right? I mean, the Ayatollah and all of those, jihadi Islamists were actually in France as well. Like they were basically, refugees in France, and it was Air France. It was Air France who flew them back to Iran. One of the, if not the darkest day in Iranian history. So yeah, like these countries, it's not just about the colonialism, it's about the fact that they enabled the Islamic dictatorship, and now they're paying the price because the Islamic dictatorship is now funding a lot of the terrorists that are destabilizing their own countries. 100%. Okay, we have another comment. Le Porc Belge. Merci pour ton travail, Goldie. Joyeux Noël. Merci beaucoup. Joyeux Noël aussi. Et Happy New Year. Merci pour votre comment et votre support. The Parse. Thank you for what you are doing. Sepos Gozar, thank you so much. Sepos Gozar as Hamayatitun. Really appreciate that. So, okay, thank you for all the super chats. Really appreciate that, everyone. I'm going to now play the speech by His Royal Highness, and for anyone else who has a question or comment or super chat, I would ask if you can just be a little patient. Feel free to send them in, but I will get to all of them after the King's speech is done, because I just don't want to have any interruptions, because this is one of the most important speeches he's ever given. He's ever given.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Western civilization, and the United States in particular, is at risk. I say this because this is exactly what happened to my country 45 years ago. Iran, you might say, was the testing grounds for what my late father called the unholy alliance of the red and the black, radical Marxism and radical Islamism. These two ideologies converged not to create, but to destroy. Indeed, to destroy the very notion of Iran. As the Ayatollah Khomeini himself, upon his return to Iran, said, "Patriots are of no use to us. We need Muslims. Islam is opposed to nationalism, because nationalism means we want a nation, nationhood, and not Islam."
So just to expand on this a little bit, so the reason why the Ayatollah said that nationalism is the enemy of Islam is because that goes against the idea of the global caliphate, right? Like that ummah, the ummah that they want to create by imposing Sharia law on everyone. That goes against the concept of a nation state, because the whole idea of Sharia law and creating an Islamic caliphate is to get rid of all of these various countries and their laws and just impose Islam everywhere. So that's why when they took over Iran, they said, we don't need Iranians or patriots, we need Muslims. And that's why the vast majority of the people involved with the Islamic dictatorship occupying us aren't even Iranian, right? They're not even Iranian. They're from all over the place. But he's going to get into this even more. He's now going to talk about how when the Islamic dictatorship took over, they basically erased the Iranian national identity and they replaced it all with Islam. Okay, so pay attention to this part here. And thank you for the comments, Scott. Appreciate that.
Quickly put his ideology into action.
Let me just go back.
Islam is opposed to nationalism, because nationalism means we want a nation, nationhood, and not Islam. he quickly put his ideology into action. Our National Consultative Assembly became the Islamic Consultative Assembly. Our conventional national army was shunned in favor of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The lion and sun symbol, which adorned our national flag for centuries, was replaced with Allahu Akbar.
So just a quick comment on that. The flag you see up above behind me, that's the real flag of Iran, the lion and sun flag. This was the flag of the country prior to 1979. When the Islamic dictatorship took over, he's absolutely right. They replaced our flag with Allahu Akbar. And the frustrating part about this is that we're Iranian, we don't speak Arabic. We speak Persian. Allahu Akbar is Arabic. So this is what I mean when I say Iran is occupied by like Islamic terrorists, because they got rid of everything Iranian, they replaced it all with Islamic, and even our flag has Arabic writing on it that says Allahu Akbar, right? So this is what I mean when I say Iran is occupied, and this is what I mean when I say that these people want a global caliphate, and they will erase your national identity, or at least try to, so that they can just impose Islam and Sharia law on everyone. So that's the reason why I have this flag, because that's my way of fighting against the Islamic dictatorship that has occupied my country. They're trying to erase our Iranian identity. We're not going to allow them to do that. So there you go. Yeah, like even the flag of our colonizers is in Arabic. And again, like I don't speak Arabic. I speak Persian because I'm Iranian. I'm not Arab. But our flag has Arabic writing on it. So I mean that's what an Islamic invasion looks like, right? Like that's what Islamic colonization looks like.
This united front of Marxists and Islamists took hold of my homeland, but was never satisfied with just taking over Iran, as these two ideologies do not believe in the concept, much less the border of a nation. Indeed, the Islamic Republic in Iran does not view itself as defending or limited to the borders of the Millat, or the Iranian nation, but rather the Ummat, or the Islamic Brotherhood. This expansion has gone far beyond the Middle East. Every day, we see graphic, distressing images of the consequences this regime's expansion has brought, all the way to Europe and the West. From looting universities that were once the envy of the world, to supporting terrorist cells taking hold in Europe, to attempting to annihilate Israel, to expanding its criminal footprint to Latin America. This is not an accident. This is the Islamic Republic's political strategy. I invite you to read yesterday's statement and grave warning from the Director of National Intelligence on this matter. Sadly, this has all too often been ignored by many in the mainstream media and the fellow travelers who have come to dominate the commentariat class. Even this week, we are seeing this fifth column of the Islamic regime rear its ugly head in the media to try to convince you that the Islamic Republic's new president is a reformist. He is no such thing. He is nothing but a loyalist and lackey of this regime, and a proponent of its radical imperialist ideology. As he publicly wrote to the Hezbollah Secretary General, reiterating the regime's commitment to its proxies and their terror just this week. Indeed, the rise of radical Islam around the world can be traced directly back to the success of the Islamic Revolution in Iran and the establishment of this usurping anti-Iranian regime, backed by a minority and sustained through oppression and violence. The problem that began in Iran must be ended in Iran. But But do not mistake this as a war between Iran and the West, nor a call for one. It is neither.
So this part's important, and this is so what he's about to say, okay? This is one of the reasons that like we Iranians, we're sticklers when it comes to how people identify the Islamic dictatorship versus Iranians, right? So um there's no war between Iran and America. Prior to 1979, Iran was actually one of the biggest allies of the United States, especially in the Middle East area. It was only when the Islamic dictatorship took over that they started chanting "Death to America," and then they took Americans hostage, and started all of this Islamic terrorism. So, the war has never been between Iranians like myself and Americans. The war has always been the Islamic dictatorship and that Islamic ideology, right? That took over Iran in 1979, and so um, that's why we Iranians are sticklers about that, because when people, when you have politicians or pundits or whoever, they say, oh, Iran did this, Iran did that, everyone's going to automatically assume that it's, Iranians as well. Meanwhile, people don't realize that Iranians have actually been held hostage by a brutal Islamic dictatorship for the last 47 years. And the only reason that the world is waking up to this, now in the last few years is literally because of the internet and social media and people being able to speak out about it and raise awareness, right? And for example, like the fact that I'm even speaking about this, and being able to make people aware. I mean, I didn't have this platform several years ago. So technology and the internet has been the biggest enemy of the Islamic dictatorship, because for a very long time they have controlled the message, they've controlled the narrative, especially through mainstream media as well. However, many Iranians, myself included, have been able to now circumvent that and share with you the truth about what's going on. So I just want to point that out. So when he says, this isn't a war between Iran and America, he's 100% right, because we Iranians were peaceful. We were allies of the United States. In fact, one of the biggest Iranian diasporas is in the United States, right? And Iranians integrate well wherever they go. I mean, you never hear about I don't know, anyways, I'm not going to get into all that stuff, but Iranians integrate very well wherever they go. I guarantee you, every one of you probably knows at least one Iranian. You just probably don't even know that they're Iranian as well. But yeah, like the issue here is not Iran or the Iranian identity. The issue is the Islamic dictatorship and their Islamic jihadi ideology, right? So he's about to get into that. I just want to make that very clear.
This is not a conflict between nation states, but the war of a radical internationalist ideology on all nations, nor from the Iranian nation to your own. Indeed, it was the great and historic nation of Iran that was the first victim of this unholy alliance and of the resulting Islamic Republic. For 45 years, Iran has been taken captive, and my compatriots have been held hostage. They have been held hostage not by American sanctions or Western policies, but by radical Islamism. But Western political elites have indeed been accomplices, not only in my compatriots being held hostage, but accomplices in the crimes against your own citizens and nations. The chief accomplice of the Ayatollahs in their violent march to their global caliphate has been American political naivete about the true nature of this regime and European guilt and fears of Islamophobia. You do not have to fight the war against this poisonous and murderous ideology on your own, but you must be aware that it is waging war against you. I do have good news. because there is an army rising up against this poisonous ideology, this unholy alliance. That army is the Iranian people, the united Iranian people. Today, I come to you with a message from that rising army, that nation under captivity, those citizens taken hostage. The Islamic Republic may have taken hold of Iran, but it has never taken hold of Iranians' love of country. Today, Iran, inspired by our ancient history and our great civilization, is in the throes of a national revival, a national reawakening, a national renaissance. Iranians are proud, strong people with a proud, storied history, and they are not willing to lose it to this unholy alliance. As my compatriots on the streets or at the tomb of Cyrus the Great chant, we will fight, we will die, we will reclaim Iran. But there are those who stand against them. There are global interests who would rather see the Islamic regime in Iran stay in power. They are making too much money, taking too much advantage, or perhaps it's simply too convenient. I know this because I've had powerful men, wealthy men, well-connected men tell me to stop the fight, to give up the effort, because they have grander global plans at work. Some want to keep the regime in place forever. Some want to light the country on fire so that out of its inevitable explosion, they can create statelets over whom they can play the role of benefactor, master, or God. But I will not stand for this, and I will not give up, for my compatriots deserve better. But do not be mistaken. This national reawakening is an Iranian project, not something to be cooked up in Washington, London, Berlin, or Paris. So why am I here with you today? I am here with a message from my compatriots, a message from the Iranian nation. My friends, the people of Iran would like to see you in the United States as a partner. Their message is that they seek not an entangling alliance, but an alliance of shared values and mutual interest, one which will serve Iran's true national interests and your own. Indeed, Iran is one of the few foreign policy questions where the United States can squarely align its interests with its values. While its dictator has attempted to brainwash Iran's youth with daily calls of death to America, my compatriots take to the streets and say, death to the Islamic Republic. And our enemy is right here. You lie when you say it's America. When the regime puts American flags on the ground, my compatriots refuse to step on it and walk around or jump over it. And this is not a new phenomenon. Iranians are the only people in the Middle East who poured onto the streets on September 11th, 2001 to mourn alongside you and to stand with you. They have continued to see both their compatriots and yours killed in aimless conflicts the Islamic Republic has brought about in the Middle East. And they are offering you a solution to free yourselves of these conflicts, rebalance the region, and solve the issues of the Middle East with a Middle Eastern solution. Because while the Islamic Republic seeks to spread its radical caliphate across the region, my compatriots denounce this imperialism and respond with shots of neither Gaza nor Lebanon. My life is only for Iran.
So the reason that Iranians chant, so I'll say it in Farsi and then I'll explain it. So in Persian. So in Persian, we say na Gaza, na Lebanon, janam fadoye Iran, which means no to Gaza, no to Lebanon, my life for Iran. It's basically the frustration of how the Islamic dictatorship has been taking money that should be going to Iranian people and instead is sending it to Hezbollah in Lebanon, is sending it to like, the Palestinians and Hamas and, all those like jihadi terrorists in Gaza, sending it there to fuel their terrorist attacks against Israel and others. Meanwhile, Iranian people are incredibly poor. Like 70% of Iranians live below the poverty line. And so Iranians, like they're fed up with this. And that's why they chant, no to Gaza, no to Lebanon, my life for Iran. Because they're like, again, this is their way of saying to the world, like, we don't want Iranian money to be fueling Islamic jihad in the Middle East and around the world. But that's exactly what the Islamic dictatorship has been doing. But you never hear that in the media, though. You never hear that in the media because it doesn't fit the narrative, right?
They are tired of having their once radiant country run like a radical cause. They want a government that cares for its own and does not spend blood or treasure meddling in foreign wars as it has in Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, and Yemen. They want to return Iran to being a nation state, as we have been for more than 2 millennia. How can all of this happen? My friends, we are not seeking your intervention. We are not seeking your charity. I am not here to ask for your permission to get rid of the Islamic Republic, nor am I here to ask you to do it for us. The true Iran, the ancient Iran, and the soon-to-be free Iran doesn't seek your patronage. It seeks your partnership. It doesn't seek your funding. It seeks your friendship.
That's really important, right? Because a lot of people, a lot of the propagandists for the Islamic Republic will put out this fake news story about how, this is going to cost a lot of money or whatever. Literally no one is asking for funds. No one is asking for money. No one is asking for boots on the ground either, right? Like no one is saying we need American military intervention. That's just a false narrative that the pro-Islamic regime lobby groups put out there, right, in order to confuse non-Iranians into thinking that the only way to free Iran is through, spending American taxpayer dollars or by putting boots on the ground. Literally nothing is farthest from the truth. So that's what he means when he's talking about, we don't need patronage, we want partnership, we don't need funds, we seek friendship. He's also going to explain a little bit more now about how non-Iranians and especially Americans can help Iranians free their country from this brutal Islamic dictatorship.
Because our interests are aligned in the most unique of ways. So, as opposed to the growing threat of this unholy alliance of the red and the black, what, my friends, might a partnership with the Iranian nation look like? What will it look like when the sovereignty over our ancient nation is returned to its true sovereign, the Iranian people? Iran will once again be the anchor of peace and stability in the Middle East, so you can finally bring your boys and girls home from faraway lands, but with dignity. Iran will once again be the center of prosperity in the region and a safe haven for foreign investment, not foreign aid. Iran will once again be an ally of the United States and a close partner of both Israel and the Arab states, and see the Abraham Accords hopefully grow to the Cyrus Accords. Iran will once again be the engine of progress, the defender of freedom and righteousness, not the spreader of terror and evil. You notice I say once again, because this is nothing new. This is the type of relations our two nations had before, particularly under the leadership of my father and President Nixon. Then, Iran sought peace and productive relations based on mutual interest with all nations. We were friends with America and its European allies. But we also maintained a balanced foreign policy by having stable, cordial relations with the USSR and China. We worked with both India and Pakistan. We had relations with both Israel and the Arab states of the Persian Gulf. Iran kept the peace in the Middle East, and we can help to do so again. But what is missing? What has prevented this until now has largely been an American policy on Iran, guided by intellectual naivete, based on the false premise that you can change the behavior of those who believe in such a radical ideology. But this is not a conflict between nation states, but against a radical, destructive ideology that cannot be negotiated with. This ideology cannot be reasoned with. It cannot be changed. There is no better deal to be made. It must be defeated, which is exactly what my compatriots have been fighting for. Perhaps some of this makes you wary. I know. It should. Some conversations like this in decades past have led your political leadership down the wrong road. In Afghanistan, when 70% of the country's post-Taliban tribal parliament wanted to restore the constitutional monarchy of Zahir Shah because his people saw him, even in his old age, as a symbol and source of national unity, the American administration denied this national claim and this sovereign right. By forcing an inauthentic Western construct on a society with its own traditions, norms, and means of governance, the result was corruption, chaos, and collapse of the state.
Sorry, I'm just seeing a lot of Iranians in the YouTube live chat. So for the non-Iranians, just bear with me for one moment. I'm going to say something really quickly in Persian, and then we'll go back to English. خواستم یه درود فراوان به همه همیهنان بفرستم که توی یوتیوب الان توی این کانال هستن و دارن کانال ما نگاه میکنن. من کامنتاتون رو دارم میخونم، ولی چون که رو لپتاپ هستم سختمه که به زبون فارسی تایپ بکنم و جوابتون رو بدم، ولی میخواستم از همتون سپاسگزار بکنم که اینجا هستین، دارین حمایت میکنین و دلیلی که من این کانال رو به زبون انگلیسی انجام میدم به خاطر اینه که خب یه صدای برای مردم ایران باشم و خب این موضوعی که خودمون به زبون فارسی راجبش صحبت میکنیم به زبون انگلیسی مطرح بکنم. به خاطر این به زبون فارسی صحبت نمی کنم و زیرنویس هم نیست، ولی خب از حمایتتون واقعا سپاسگزارم و مرسی که در کنار ما هستین. همه کامنتاتون رو میخونم و merci. All right, sorry about that, guys. So I'm just noticing a lot of Iranians in the chat who are typing in Farsi, and so I just wanted to explain to them that this is an English channel, and so I predominantly speak in English, and I let them know that I'm seeing all of their comments in Persian, and I'm reading all of their comments in Persian. I just don't have the ability to type back in Persian because I'm on my laptop, and so I don't know how to I don't have like a Persian language keyboard or anything. Usually when I'm typing in Persian, it's on my cell phone. So I just basically let them know that I'm grateful they're here, thanking them for their support. I'm reading all of their comments, but of course this is an English channel, and so my focus is on English. So there we go. And I guess If anyone was wondering if I'm Iranian or not, there's your proof now. There's your proof. So, all right, let's continue.
It was a devastating mistake, the consequence of which we continue to see today.
Let me go back a little bit.
The American administration denied this national claim and this sovereign right by forcing an inauthentic Western construct on a society with its own traditions, norms, and means of governance. The result was corruption, chaos, and collapse of the state. It was a devastating mistake, the consequence of which we continue to see today. This did not achieve security for America, nor was it successful in defending your values. Today, terrorist attacks are once again launched from Kandahar, and women are once again enslaved in Kabul. Because although America's aims may have been well-intentioned, the failure to listen to Afghans led it down a road to hell, paved with those very same good intentions. Only a few years later, in Iraq, Washington's political elites' arrogance and ignorance subjugated Iraqi national interest and sovereignty to small-minded sectarian interests that not only failed to unite the country, but further divided it. Citizens of Iraq were forced to see themselves not as Iraqis first and foremost, but as members of their religious sect, their ethnic group, or their clan, before seeking themselves as co-equal citizens of their nations. And let us not forget that all of this was brought about with military force. Let me make myself clear. That mistake should not be repeated in Iran, and I will not stand for those radical few who might advocate it, Iranians or Americans. But there is another path to this partnership between these two great nations, Iran and America. A path that rejects appeasement of the radical Islamists who have taken Iran hostage and are taking their war to you, right here on American soil. A path that rejects war and the imposition of inorganic Western construct on a proud and ancient nation. This new path, this third way, requires maximum pressure on the Islamic Republic and maximum support for the Iranian people. Iranians are not seeking a handout. They do not want you to change their regime for them. They are fighting on the streets and cities of Iran for their right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and to reclaim their most treasured inheritance, their nation. What they want is for you to stop emboldening their captors and killers by sending them billions of dollars. And as opposed to bring about peace through strength, bringing about chaos through weakness and appeasement. My friends, you have a fight on your hands. But your fight is not with the nation of Iran. Your fight is with the radical ideology of the Islamic Republic and its defenders right here in Washington. But you are not.
So I just wanted to point out, so again, like what he just said here, what His Royal Highness King Reza Pahlavi said, the fight is not with Iran, it's not with Iranians. The fight is with radical Islam, right? And that's exactly what Tulsi Gabbard just said in her speech 5 days ago. So what Tulsi Gabbard was saying 5 days ago is exactly what we Iranians have been warning about for years. And this speech here is from last summer, so the summer of 2024, at the National Conservative Convention, where His Royal Highness was giving the exact same warning. And he's also pointing it out because it's really important, right? the issue isn't the Iranian people. The issue is that radical ideology that is occupying Iran. It's that radical ideology that is now coming into Western countries. It's that radical ideology that built that mosque in Germany, apparently one of the oldest mosques in Hamburg, which was just recently shut down last summer because of all the terrorism, right? And the radicalism that was there. So that's a key part, guys. The issue is not Iran. It's the radical ideology. Let's go back, listen to that part again. Because that's exactly what Tulsi Gabbard is now thankfully finally saying, right?
As opposed to bring about peace through strength, bringing about chaos through weakness and appeasement. My friends, you have a fight on your hands. But your fight is not with the nation of Iran. Your fight is with the radical ideology of the Islamic Republic and its defenders right here in Washington.
So he's referring to all of those Islamic lobby groups in Washington who, advocate for normalizing relations with the Islamic regime because that's how the Islamic regime can continue destabilizing the West.
But you are not alone in that fight, because it is the same fight Iranians are fighting every day on the streets of my country. In the fight between the Islamic Republic and Iran, my compatriots have chosen to step forward, to accept the call of history, and fight to reclaim their nation. So have I, and I hope you will join us. For as Burke said, when bad men combine, the good must associate, else they will fall one by one. Being with you just a few days after we celebrated America's Independence Day is quite fortuitous, because some 250 years ago, as he authored the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson did so inspired by the values of the Iranian king Cyrus. Iranians have never forgotten this connection, and today, as they fight not to create, but to liberate their nation, they are inspired by your struggle for freedom and love of country. Our two great nations share this special bond. Great civilizations, true nations, never remained subjugated. And we Iranians will reclaim our country. As this eventuality becomes a reality, be with us in this fight, not as our patrons, but as our partners, not as our founders, but as our friends. For our battle is won. Thank you.
There you go. Wow. Always, always a fantastic speech. I always enjoy listening to His Royal Highness King Reza Pahlavi speak about the threat of radical Islam and radical communism. And the reason that I played this speech from last year is because this is exactly what Tulsi Gabbard was speaking about 5 days ago at TPUSA. And so this threat of radical Islam is a very real and legitimate threat. And it took over Iran in 1979. And now one of the reasons we Iranians have been sounding the alarm and speaking out about it is because we're seeing the same signs of radicalization, as well as the union between the communists and the Islamists, right? In terms of starting to destabilize Western societies. So that's why I played that video. So important, so critical for everyone to pay attention to that. And I know many of you are asking, so how do we deal with this? How do we get rid of it? Well, all I can say is that unless and until Iran is free from the Islamic dictatorship, this is going to continue. The Islamic dictatorship is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. And a lot of the radicalism and terrorism you're seeing happening in countries is because of the Islamic dictatorship. And again, like I've said, the vast majority of people who support the Islamic dictatorship aren't even Iranian. They're holding us Iranians hostage. The people who support the Islamic dictatorship, who are trained by them, who fund them, the vast majority are like, Hezbollah, right? Like the jihadi Arabs in Lebanon, the same ones who destroyed Lebanon, by the way, right? Like Lebanon has been destroyed. That's because of the Islamic dictatorship. So they colonized Iran, and now they've been colonizing other countries, right? So they've destroyed Lebanon, they've destroyed Yemen, Iraq is a mess. And the Islamic dictatorship, pretty much every single Palestinian supports the Islamic regime because the Palestinians are actually instrumental in overthrowing the Shah, taking over our country. That's a whole other episode for another time. But there's a reason that we Iranians, we don't like the Palestinians. They're a big part of the problem there. But then you also have like a lot of Pakistanis. You have like Nigerians, right? The Nigerian Muslims, right? The same Nigerian Muslims who are genociding Christian Nigerians. Where do you think they get their funding from, right? And I noticed there was a few Nigerians in the chat and who were commenting about what President Trump did. Merry Christmas. I thought that was fantastic when President Trump went after and exterminated a bunch of Muslim terrorists in Nigeria. Good for President Trump. I will be making a video about that. I'm just waiting for more info, but that's great news. Maybe what I'll do is I'll reach out to Zari and have him come back on. I'll do a live stream with him maybe in the next few days and get some updates from him on that. But the best way to combat the threat of Islamic terrorism around the world really is to help the Iranian people overthrow the regime and take our country back. And this is why I try to explain to people what's happening in Iran, right? You might think it has nothing to do with you, but it has everything to do with you, and it is impacting your life 100%. Because it's the Islamic dictatorship that is destabilizing your countries. So how do you deal with that? You have to go to the source and you have to get rid of the source, and that would be the Islamic dictatorship. So that's what Iranian people are fighting for. And, Iranian people are just asking for your support to help them fight back against the radical Islamic dictatorship that has taken the country hostage and literally murdering us every day in the name of Allah and Islam and jihad. So, all right, I'm going to go through some of your comments here now in the super chat. So, Le Porc Belge, me again, pour que tu parles en français joli. Oh, merci. My French isn't that good, but okay, I'll say a few things. Merci beaucoup pour votre support. J'espère que tu aimes my YouTube channel. Et oui, je peux lire le français plus bien que je peux le parler, je peux le comprendre, mais quand je parle, c'est comme ci, comme ça, je dois le pratiquer. But thank you for that. And then Le Porc Belge, again, a powerful speech for a lot of deaf ears. Pity. I agree. The people who need to hear the speech the most are the ones who probably aren't even paying attention. Hamid Jafari, if the West wants peace in the Middle East, they must support this king because the Iranian people alone cannot change the regime, because this regime doesn't care how many millions of people it kills. 100%. I agree with you. I 100% agree. King Reza Pahlavi is the only legitimate opposition leader and the only person that Iranians trust to overthrow the government or overthrow the Islamic dictatorship and reclaim the country. And he actually has a 100-day plan in place. And guys, if you're interested, I'm more than happy to do a follow-up live stream where I talk about the proposed 100-day plan, and and I can explain the proposed pathway to take Iran from a brutal Islamic dictatorship back to a functioning secular democracy like it was prior to 1979. So if there's any interest in that, let me know afterwards. After the live stream is done, let me know in the comments section, not in the live chat. But and if there's enough interest, more than happy to do a live stream, because I know there's some interest in that as well. But Hamid Jafari, thank you for your comment. I 100% agree with you on that. Kobaka, if I were tech savvy, I'd find a way to translate your show into every language. Your mission matters. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So my understanding based on YouTube is that live streams, right? Like you can't do, like YouTube doesn't do simultaneous captions or anything like that for live streams. But after the live stream is over and the video is processed, YouTube will automatically generate captions. My understanding is that YouTube is also able to do captions in different languages. I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, if I had the resources, I would, but I honestly I don't have the resources. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the tech ability to translate. I'm just hoping that at least by speaking English, I can reach a broader audience here. But thank you for that, and thank you for the kind words. Appreciate that so much. Papa Wolf, Golsa, I'm not Iranian, but will say, long live the true Iran. I love you and what you are doing. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Means a lot to me. And you know what? Thank you for saying Iran. I know I actually have to make a video. Guys, like I have so many videos I need to make. But I will get to all of them. So one of the things, I'm going to make a pretty short video where I kind of explain Iran and Persia, because I know a lot of people with very, very good intentions will say something like make Iran Persia again or something, because a lot of people incorrectly, and not deliberately or anything, but a lot of people will incorrectly associate Iran with Islam. And they think that Persia is the original name, but it's actually not. Iran is the original name of the people, of the country. Iran is a word that has existed for thousands of years before Islam was invented. Persia is actually what the Greeks called Iran way back in the day. And so that's why the word Persian stuck, because in the English language, people started saying Persian. But in our own language, we don't say Persian, right? Like we say Iran, we say Irani. So for us, it's always been Iran, it's always been Irani. And for the longest time, Iran was called Persia. And then it was in 1935 that Reza Shah the Great, he officially renamed the country from Persia back to Iran, Iran being the original official name of the country. So a lot of people think that Iran has something to do with Islam. It's not the case at all. In fact, Iran is the original pre-Islamic name. Persia is the Greek endonym. But I will make a video about that. But I do appreciate when people say make Iran Persia again. I totally understand where you're coming from, and I appreciate the sentiment. But it's Iran, and we're Iranian. So I just wanted to say, and so thank you for saying Iran. Means a lot to me. Mora, yes, can you do the podcast on the plan from the king? Yeah, okay, absolutely. Okay, so podcast about day after Iran, 100 day. Okay, I would be I mean, if there's interest, I would be more than happy to talk about that. Absolutely. I mean, guys, honestly, I could talk about Iran like all day, every day, 24/7. The only reason I talk about a whole bunch of different topics is because, of course, I don't want to be like a one-trick pony, and I don't want to obviously just focus on one thing. I want to have a bit of variety in what I'm speaking about. But I could do like podcasts and shows and videos 24/7 on Iran. But the reason that I also like to focus on other aspects of terrorism and jihad in the Middle East is because in a way it all is kind of linked back to the Islamic Republic. I mean, even the genocide in Nigeria, right? So Muslim terrorists are murdering Christians in Nigeria. Even the Nigerian genocide has links to the Islamic Republic occupying Iran because it's all part of their jihad. It's all a part of their their desire to create this global Islamic caliphate, essentially. So yeah. All right, guys. I just wanted to thank you all for joining me today. I really appreciate all of your support. Really appreciate all of the comments. And yeah, thank you so much for the super chats. Oh, catch. My apologies for calling return to Persia. Oh, thank you so much. Listen, you don't need to apologize. So thank you so much for that. But this is what I mean. You don't need to apologize because I understand. I completely understand that it's coming from good intentions. And so when I hear people say "make Iran Persia again," honestly, it doesn't offend me. It does not offend me whatsoever. If anything, it makes me it warms my heart, because it lets me know that people um care and people understand and people want to learn. So please don't ever apologize. It's not offensive or anything like that. And in fact, like the fact that you even care, that means more to me than anything else. So I really do appreciate that. Again, no need to apologize, but that's just little piece of information there. But you know what, it is confusing. I'm not gonna lie, it is confusing. That's why I'm gonna make a video about it, because before 1935 the official name of the country was Persia, even though in Farsi, even though it was Iran. But now here's the thing: even though the name of the country is Iran, in English the name of our language is Persian. But in Persian, the name of our language is Farsi. So, in English, I would say I'm Iranian, I speak Persian. In Persian, I would say man Iraniyam, Farsi sobat mikonam. So there is, confusion there between, okay, when do I say Iran? When do I say Persian? When do I say Iranian? So it's all good. It's all good. The equivalent for Am Yisrael Chai, I would probably just say Javid Shah. Javid Shah is, long live the king. So, okay. So I do have a note here. I will definitely do a live stream podcast about the transitional plan for Iran the day after the terrorist Islamic Republic is overthrown. More than happy to talk about that. So make sure that you are subscribed to my channel. Make sure that your notifications are turned on. I do my live streams. So, my Goldie Show political live streams, I go live at 12 noon Eastern, Monday to Friday. So you can catch me at that time. This week's been a little weird because, Christmas and stuff, but generally it's Monday to Friday, 12 noon Eastern. And then in the evenings, I usually do an evening live stream where we watch a documentary or something like that. It's a little bit more chill, It's less politics, more kind of like learning and stuff. So I will be doing an evening live stream tonight, most likely. So stay tuned for that. Not exactly sure when. The time on that is kind of all over the place. And for my channel members, just wanted to let you know that I will be switching over to the members only live stream afterwards so that I can answer more of your questions. And so for those of you who are not channel members, I just wanted to say, it's not like I don't go there and like give exclusive information or anything like that. So like I'm not here to gatekeep information. So if you're not able to be like a paid channel member, totally fine. You're not losing out on any info. The purpose for my members only live streams is basically for me to have an opportunity to get, you know, one-on-one feedback from channel members, to get, you know, their perspective, to answer their questions, just because the actual live stream, a lot of comments, and I can't, you know, I don't have the ability to respond to all of you. So that's basically what happens in the members only live stream. I also talk about, you know, future things that I want to discuss, and I get feedback from members on what topics they want me to talk about in the future as well. So I think my members only live stream is scheduled for about 15 minutes from now, but I might be like 10 or 15 minutes late. So let's just say I'm going to go live members only somewhere between 15 minutes to half an hour from now. For all the rest of you, thank you again for supporting me. Thank you all for being here. I will see you all later tonight. And as always, Payande Iran, Javid Shah.